everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first time in Madison, Wisconsin, but originally I'm from Syracuse, New York, so I'm not too frightened by the weather. It feels very comfortable, actually. But before I share a little bit about why I'm here tonight and my story and journey, especially not only being American and Indian American, but on top of that, a Hindu American as well, which is very near and dear to my heart. I wanted to first and foremost thank Naren Uncle, Mahesh Uncle and Vijay Auntie, as well as Bikash Uncle and Venu Uncle for facilitating this and having me here and inviting me here tonight. No matter how old I get and no matter what I accomplish, you will always be uncles and aunties, so that will never change. But I thank you all for the warm welcome. Everyone has just been so gracious. And before I get into my story, I first want to talk a little bit about the Miss America organization. Oftentimes, a lot of people don't necessarily understand what the organization stands for, who Miss America is, and what she does. Unfortunately, many people watch that one night on television when Miss America is crowned, and they don't see the other 364 days of what she's doing the entire year. Because this is a full-time job, and it continues to be a full-time job. And I will always say that everyone wants to win Miss America, not everyone wants the job of Miss America, and those are two very separate things. The Miss America organization has 4 pillars to it, and the first and most important, I think, is service. Over the past year, I have served as the National Goodwill Ambassador for Children's Miracle Network Hospitals. I expect that many of you are familiar with it. It's an incredible organization that treats any child regardless of their disease, illness. No child can be turned away from a Children's Miracle Network hospital. In addition to that, I'm an advocate for my own personal platform, which is what I've primarily toured across the country promoting, which is celebrating diversity through cultural competency. So my platform is something I didn't wake up and decide to promote as Miss America. It's something that I've essentially been promoting my entire life, officially for 4 years now. So this is something that I've been able to not only take to the next level as Miss America, but continue to do so as myself as Nina Davuluri, which I'm very proud about. In addition to that, the second pillar of the organization is scholarship. So I actually started competing in the Miss America organization for scholarship money. My parents were very generous enough to offer to pay for my education, like many of you I'm sure in this room, but I felt that I needed to take it upon myself to at least help them, given the opportunities that I have in this country for scholarship. So one of my friends suggested the Miss America organization, and although unconventional, I certainly was intrigued. So I started competing in the teen program, and through the teen program, I earned $25,000 in scholarship money. Because of that money and the help of my parents, I was fortunate enough to graduate debt-free from the University of Michigan. I won't say that too much here, being a Big Ten town, but went on and then took about a 5-year hiatus from the organization. Decided I wanted to focus on my degree, found myself in a position where I knew I wanted to go back to graduate school, so I started competing again. Through this organization, I've earned a little over $90,000 in scholarship money, and I have about $60,000 of that left to put towards my graduate degree, which will probably pay for my books. But it is still a nice, it's still quite an amount of money that I've earned and collected. The third pillar is style, and the fourth pillar is success, which encompasses all of the other 3, of course. But I really wanted to talk about today why I'm here and share a large part of my story and really have a candid and intimate conversation because this is very personal to me. Growing up in America, trying to assimilate with the Indian culture is very difficult to balance. I see many young children in the audience, I see teenagers and college students, and I really hope that this message resonates with you as well. I grew up in a very small town in Oklahoma, in Ada, Oklahoma. My family moved there when I was 4 years old from Syracuse, New York. And I was the only Indian girl in all of my classes growing up for many, many years. I knew I was different, but I think the moment it really hit me when I was in 3rd grade. And when I was in 3rd grade was really the time I found that I was religiously different, not only culturally or physically, but religiously as well. And being in Oklahoma, not only was I often mistaken for Native American, people would always ask me what tribe I was in, but there were many other things that came with it that I'll touch on. But I remember the first time in 3rd grade, a young boy came up to me And he said, Nina, do you believe in Jesus? And I said, well, I believe in God. And he said, well, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. And I just remember being so shocked and so taken aback by his statement. I went home that night crying to my mom, and I said, why did he say this? What does this mean? And she sat there and she explained to me, not everyone believes in what we do, and that's okay. But sometimes it's best to not talk about our religion with others because they don't necessarily understand it. 15 years ago, that's understandable for her to say that as a mother. Now, today, in 2014, it is absolutely unacceptable for any child in school to feel that he or she cannot share a part of their religion and be proud of it. Because that is the beauty of growing up in America, is embracing our differences and being who you are. And so, through this journey that I had, my family moved to Michigan when I was 10 years old. Those same similar stereotypes continued to follow me. I was often asked if I was going to have an arranged marriage, if I worshiped cows, what the red dot meant, what caste I was in. And many of these are common stereotypes and misconceptions, not only about the Indian culture, but about the Hindu faith as well. And many of them, these remarks, weren't necessarily meant to be malicious, but really simply due to the fact of ignorance. And growing up, like I said, trying to find that balance between being American and Indian, I was embarrassed of who I was. I didn't have a cultural center to go to. We didn't grow up in a place where I was able to go to the temple with my family. It just wasn't accessible for us to have that community within our own community, I suppose. And so I was embarrassed with my friends when they would come over to my house and see spiritual figurines and deities and pictures. My family is also Sai Baba devotees, and when my friends would come over, they would say, who's the dude with the fro? and these are all questions that it was just very difficult for me to address because I felt so misunderstood. And when I finally went to college at University of Michigan, that was the first time I really remember being able to fit in, because we had that community. I was part of the Hindu Students Council, as well as the Indian American Student Association, and finally being able to celebrate Diwali with my peers, celebrate Holi with not only Indians, but also get the entire campus community involved was something that I was so proud of. And that's precisely what I feel that this temple that you are trying to build in Madison will precisely facilitate, is that sense of community and inclusion between not only Indians, but between all faiths and all religions, to come together and have a safe place where they can really connect with one another and celebrate their differences. So now I have the opportunity to kind of touch on my journey as Miss America and what I've been able to do and advocate for that as well. Like I said, service is very close to my heart, which is certainly a significant part of the Hindu faith. But I really wanted to share a little bit about the behind-the-scenes journey to competing for Miss America. I remember I competed for the title of Miss New York twice. And for those of you who don't follow the competition, the first time I competed for Miss New York, I was second runner-up to Mallory Hagan, who won the title of Miss New York. Mallory then went on to win the title of Miss America, representing the state of New York, the year right before me. And so when that happened, I remember calling my mom hysterically, saying, "Mom, I will never win Miss America now. What are the chances that Miss New York will win 2 years in a row?" It didn't seem very likely. And she said to me, "Well, Nina, why don't you first focus on winning Miss New York, and then we can talk about Miss America." And so, needless to say, I obviously went back the second year, and you all know how it ended. But I also remember sitting down with my sister, Mina. My parents thought it was cute to have rhyming names, Mina and Nina. It gets very confusing. She is a fourth-year medical student and is still the golden child in my family. But I remember sitting down with her, and she said to me, "Nina, why are you investing so much time into this organization? What does it mean to you?" And I said to her, "Nina, I sincerely believe 3 to 5 years from now, Miss America will be someone who's ethnic. And that's not to pull the race card, that's not to say, pick me, I'm brown. It felt so timely for this organization to finally reach out to a new demographic of young women that's representative of what is America today. Because we live in a country that's not as simple as black and white anymore. And to be able to showcase that on the Miss America stage was something that was important to me, to embrace my culture and heritage, but also to reach out to that young girl, like many young girls here today, and for them who were watching that night, for them to finally be able to say, wow, this year, Miss America looks like me. And I don't have to have a normal talent or fit the blonde hair, blue-eyed mold to be in this job or to win this title. And that's not only the beauty of being American, but that's the heart of the American dream, is that regardless of your race, your gender, your socioeconomic status, that we can become anything that we want to be, so long as we work hard for it. And so when I was competing, it's quite a blur actually when you compete for Miss America. We're in Atlantic City for 2 weeks as contestants. We're strictly quarantined. We're not allowed to have access or communicate with our family and friends. We have no cell phones. We're under tight security. And all we really have is each other as contestants. And when you put 53 of the nation's most intelligent, motivated, talented, beautiful young women together in one room, we're automatically going to connect. And 14,000 young women across the country compete for the title of Miss America each year. And so to even get on the Miss America stage, to even be able to compete for this title is certainly a dream come true. But like I said, the process of it alone is very interesting. And unfortunately, one of the things that people don't see is that as contestants, we have a 10-minute private interview with a panel of 7 judges. And they can ask you any question is fair game. From current events to political events to what's going on in our state, nation, the world for that matter, because your job first and foremost as Miss America is to be an advocate, not only for yourself, for your platform, but also for the organization. And so the 3 things I remember most is going into my interview room, which is truly where Miss America is won, and praying, saying a prayer to Swami right before I went in, and asking him to really allow me to share who I was. And my favorite question that the judges could have asked me is what makes you laugh? And I remember saying, my dog. And my dog is my best friend. I can't tell you how sad it was when we lost him this past year. He was 13. And he was a huge part of my family. I've had him since 2nd grade. And I remember when he came to us when I was in 2nd grade, we were all considering what to name him. And my mom finally said, well, what about Hanuman? And so we all thought about it, and she said, you know, the more, if we name him Hanuman, it will bring the spirit and more blessings closer to us because we will be saying the name. I have to say it somewhat backfired because we ended up saying, bad Hanuman, no Hanuman, and we yelled at the poor guy, but of course lovingly. And so for me to be able to share something like that personal story, a huge part of my culture, my religion, my heritage, in an interview room like Miss America competing for that job was truly my moment because it really showcased the entire identity of me growing up here and embracing both cultures. The second thing I remember when competing is that we have, after our interviews, we have 3 nights of preliminaries. Vigorous preliminaries where all the contestants compete in all the phases of evening gown, talent, swimwear, and onstage question. And from there is the final night where the top 15 is chosen from those preliminary scores. So the final night when we understand that we're going to have a new Miss America being crowned, I remember all of the contestants backstage together, and we formed a circle and all said a prayer with one another, holding hands. And to see that sort of interfaith and that spirit is truly a sense of community and belonging that I had never expected from an organization like this. And that's again what I foresee this community center being. And finally, that third moment I suppose I remember about Miss America experience is when I heard Miss New York being called, my name being called as the next Miss America. And of course there are a whirlwind of emotions when you have a dream culminate in the way that it did. And the first words out of my mouth, and I'm so glad that ABC captured this in front of 10 million viewers on live television, it's documented. The first words out of my mouth were, thank you, Swami. Because I truly give this to him. Without Bhagavan, I would not be here. Without all of the values and morals that my parents raised me with, I would not be able to flourish in this role and to serve as not only your Miss America, but as Nina Davuluri. And so before I end tonight, like I mentioned, Miss America changed my life in so many ways that I can't even fully articulate. But what I'm most proud of is that it's given me a voice. It's given me a voice to advocate for things that I'm passionate about. And it's given me a voice to truly inspire and motivate others to embrace their culture and their heritage and not be embarrassed of their ethnicities. And through this cultural center, through this temple, I sincerely believe that each and every one of your daughters, sons, cousins, all of your families will be connected through this, because I know how much it could have helped me if there was one in my community. And to preserve our heritage and our religion, and to see our youth grow, our next generation of leaders, I really hope that we come together in solidarity and to give back and serve with love. Thank you for having me.